Welcome back to the Screen Review. Today we're diving into Hurry Up Tomorrow, the latest film from director Trey Edward Shults. Known for his emotionally intense and visually immersive storytelling in films like Waves, Krisha, and It Comes at Night, Shults brings that same raw, atmospheric energy to this new project, only this time with a sharper, more surreal edge. Hurry Up Tomorrow is a moody, character-focused drama that follows three people over the course of one emotionally charged night in Los Angeles. The narrative unfolds in a hazy, dreamlike rhythm, capturing fleeting moments of connection, isolation, and inner turmoil. Without giving anything away, the story feels intimate yet cryptic, operating more on vibes and emotion than traditional plot structure. It's less about what happens and more about what it feels like to be drifting through a city at the edge of dawn, haunted by choices and grasping for something real. The cast here is not just unexpected, it's electric. Abel Tesfaye, better known as The Weeknd, takes the lead in a surprisingly grounded and quietly intense performance. Far removed from his larger-than-life musical persona, he brings a sense of restraint and quiet melancholy that gives the film its emotional anchor. Jenna Ortega continues her streak of compelling roles, delivering a performance that's subtle but deeply expressive. She says more with a glance than most actors do with a monologue. Barry Keoghan rounds out the trio, and, as usual, he brings a strange, magnetic unpredictability to his role. His character feels like he could unravel at any moment, and that tension adds a persistent sense of unease to the film's already surreal atmosphere. Together, the three actors share a kind of fragmented, uneasy chemistry that feels raw and unfiltered. All of this is enhanced by Shults' signature handheld camera work, naturalistic lighting, and a pulsating synth-heavy score that drifts between hypnotic and anxious. Hurry Up Tomorrow doesn't offer easy answers or tidy resolutions. It's a mood piece through and through, one that invites you to sit in the discomfort and let it wash over you. Stick around, because up next we'll dig into the performances, pacing, atmosphere, cinematography, and overall rewatchability of this unique film. Let's talk performances in Hurry Up Tomorrow, because this cast brings a unique energy to the screen, though not without a few bumps along the way. Abel Tesfaye, also known as The Weeknd, delivers a performance that's strongest when he leans into subtlety. He's at his best when expressing emotion through his eyes, body language, and quiet stillness. In these restrained moments, he's surprisingly captivating and proves he has real presence as an actor. However, the cracks start to show when the emotional stakes rise. His delivery becomes noticeably shaky, and he struggles to keep up with the intensity of the scenes, which unfortunately makes him stand out in a negative way during those big emotional swings. Jenna Ortega, on the other hand, is a real standout here in a way that caught me off guard. She's always been a capable actress, but often feels like she's playing variations of the same role. This time around, though, she shows off a wider range and brings something fresh and unexpected to the table. Her emotional beats are varied, nuanced, and she proves she can hold her own in a more layered role. Then there's Barry Keoghan, who slides perfectly into the role of the jerk, a character archetype he's mastered at this point. Given some of the recent headlines, it's a casting choice that hits a little close to home. But it works. He brings that signature chaotic edge that makes his character instantly compelling, even if you can't stand him. Together, the three make for an uneven but fascinating trio, each adding their own flavor to Shults' intense, character-driven world. Let's get into the pacing of Hurry Up Tomorrow, which is arguably one of its most uneven elements. The film is very much a slow burn, taking its time to establish mood, character, and setting. But that slow burn often slips into sluggishness. Scenes linger longer than they need to. And while the intention might be to create a meditative or immersive experience, it sometimes just feels like it's dragging. Certain moments that should carry weight start to lose their impact simply because they're stretched out past their natural breaking point. It's clear that director Trey Edward Shults is aiming for a deliberate, atmospheric rhythm, but that rhythm occasionally borders on monotonous, testing your patience rather than rewarding it. The biggest issue, though, comes in the final third of the film. There's a jarring shift, not just in pacing, but in tone. The story suddenly speeds up, almost as if it's racing toward a conclusion it forgot it needed to reach. That rapid acceleration clashes hard with everything that came before it, making the transition feel forced and disjointed. It doesn't feel like a natural build-up or a planned emotional crescendo. It feels like the film swerves off course at the last minute. And then there's the ending, which arrives so abruptly it feels like it was dropped in from a different movie entirely. It's not just unexpected, it's unearned and mistimed, leaving the whole experience feeling off balance. Instead of a satisfying conclusion to a slow-burning story, it lands more like a misfire that cuts things short just when it should be landing its final emotional punch. It creates a disorienting effect, not in a stylistic or thought-provoking way, but in a way that makes the whole pacing structure feel miscalculated. By the time the credits roll, you're not reflecting on what you just experienced. You're just wondering if something got left out. Let's talk about the cinematography in Hurry Up Tomorrow, which, in my opinion, is far and away the strongest element of the entire film. From the very first frame, the visual language grabs your attention and never really lets go. The camera work is immersive and intimate, often using long takes and fluid movements that pull you into the emotional space of the characters. Whether it's capturing the neon-soaked streets of LA at night or the quiet, tense stillness between two people in a room, every shot feels intentional and full of atmosphere. The use of lighting, especially the contrast between shadows and artificial glow, creates a dreamy, sometimes haunting tone that elevates scenes that otherwise might have felt too slow or emotionally flat. Even when the pacing lagged or the story felt uneven, the cinematography kept me visually engaged. What's especially impressive is how the cinematography steps in to do the storytelling, especially in a film that offers very little in the way of traditional exposition. Instead of relying on dialogue or background information, the film communicates through framing, movement, and visual cues, letting you feel the tension, the disconnect, or the longing between characters without spelling it out. A glance held too long, a slow zoom into an empty room, the way characters are positioned in the frame, all of it tells you something about who they are and where their heads are at. It's a subtle but powerful approach that rewards viewers who are paying close attention. The color palette, the framing, and the movement all work together to create a mood that lingers long after the scene ends. Simply put, this is the aspect of the film that holds everything together. It's the glue that makes the experience worthwhile, even when other elements fall short. When it comes to rewatchability, Hurry Up Tomorrow doesn't offer much incentive to dive back in. For me, the first watch was already a bit of a rough experience, between the uneven pacing, abrupt tonal shifts, and an ending that didn't quite land. It felt more exhausting than rewarding. While the cinematography and a few standout performances might be worth appreciating on a technical level, the overall experience doesn't leave you eager to revisit it. It's the kind of film that leans heavily on mood and atmosphere, without providing the kind of layered storytelling or hidden details that make a second viewing feel necessary. Once you've been through it, there's little about the journey that calls you back. To wrap it all up, Hurry Up Tomorrow isn't nearly as bad as some of the early headlines might have suggested, but it's still a fairly uneven and ill-paced film. The performances range from surprisingly strong, like Jenna Ortega's refreshingly diverse turn, to noticeably shaky, especially when Abel Tesfaye tries to push beyond his more restrained, subtle range. Barry Keoghan plays his part well, even if it feels a bit too close to real life. The pacing is where the film really struggles, with a slow burn that often drags, followed by a rushed and jarring final act that throws off the rhythm completely. The ending arrives abruptly and unsatisfyingly, undercutting whatever emotional build-up came before it. That said, the cinematography is genuinely excellent, moody, immersive, and often doing the heavy lifting in terms of storytelling where the script falls short. It's visually engaging enough to keep you watching, even if the narrative doesn't fully deliver. Unfortunately, that alone isn't enough to make it rewatchable or memorable in the long run. In the end, while there are moments of promise and style, the film as a whole doesn't quite come together for me. I feel a light 5 out of 10. But hey, that's just my opinion. What is yours? What should I review next? Let me know in the comments below.